So we're never going to have commercials on this show. And we are never going to make any money off of this show.
What?
No.
Oh.
Because that's not the point.
Oh.
Like, this isn't our content, and we are just here to spread the joy and love of Who's the Boss.
Yeah.
But if we can work with this little family that we've created to help other people, then I think that's great. So I've set up a fundraiser for Freedom Writers Foundation. We're going to do this for Tony Danza's birthday. His birthday is on April 21st.
Okay.
The organization is a nonprofit organization that works to provide educators with the tools they need to empower all students to succeed. They work to reduce student dropout rates and to get more kids on a path to college. So if you would like to participate, go to our Instagram, which is the Who's the Boss podcast on Instagram. On the main page at the bio, you'll see fundraising for Freedom Writers. You can click on that and donate there.
Oh, very cool.
Yes. Tony Danza is going to be 70 years old.
Wow,
Yes.
70.
Happy
Big 70.
birthday.
Good for
Yeah.
Tony Danza.
For your information, Mother, we're fixing up Tony's friend Lyle with Christy.
Lyle? Christy?
Oh, wait a minute. What's wrong with Christy?
What's wrong with Lyle?
He's such a fungus.
Fungus?
All this guy ever talks about is sports and medicine.
Well, maybe that's because he's a sports doctor.
What a lame excuse.
You think he's bad? Wait till you see Christy. She's 30 and had 3 dates. That's a date a decade.
A decade?
Mother, how could you insult her like that? She's a member of our family.
Well, so are you, dear.
Guys, it'll work out. You know what they say. Nerds of a feather.
Now, wait a minute. This is her first date in the 80s?
It's her second date. She didn't have any dates in the 60s.
Hi. Welcome back to
Hey, yo. Oh, wait.
the Who's the Boss podcast.
What are you laughing
Because
at?
you could hear, I don't know if you could hear Ronan shaking
Yeah, I think
in
I
the
could hear.
background. I'm Tori,
I'm Kevin.
and we are here to rewatch and discuss every single episode of Who's the Boss.
And we're moving right along here.
We are.
Season 4.
Yeah, season 4. I don't think we have any news. No.
No.
We got sent some fun, I got sent a couple of really fun DVDs from a lady named Eileen.
Yeah, I got sucked into that
Yes.
True Hollywood Story one. I mean, I haven't finished
She sent
it.
me TV Tales, which I had never seen before. I watched that. I found
I don't even know what that is.
Either do I. They don't do it anymore. I think it was an ET thing.
E.T. Oh, Entertainment Tonight.
Yeah, Entertainment Tonight. Oh, wait, no. Yeah. Entertainment. It must be like their version of the True Hollywood Story. It was from 2002, I think, and I did learn some interesting stuff that we can use in episodes coming up. And I also learned that they didn't, for the Ray Charles, hang on. I have a little tidbit from the Ray Charles episode, Hit the Road Chat. So apparently Scott Grimes wrote that song for Alyssa Milano and gave it to her for her birthday because they were friends. Then she played it for the producers, the Always a Friend song. And then they decided to build the episode around it.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And they didn't tell the live studio audience that Ray Charles was going to be there. So when he first came out, they said they went nuts and they had to wait until everybody calmed down so that they could start shooting again and shoot a take that they could use.
Oh, that's cool stuff.
Yeah, so that's fun.
We could have used that when we did that episode.
I know.
No, I'm just joking.
I didn't know these things.
No, I mean, we search for
I know. I
things
try
and you
to
can only
search.
find out so much.
Yeah, I don't know that you can find this anywhere. I
Right.
don't know online.
That's the thing, unless anyone's documenting these.
There are
TV
fans
shows.
that have these VHS tapes that they've had for, I mean, this was either the original airing of this show or, a soon after repeat because it's from 2002. It had all the old commercials in it.
Right, yeah.
Okay, wait, I had one more tidbit from that. What was it? Oh, okay. So they at first had an electric piano for Ray Charles. And when he sat down at it, he said, "I hate electric pianos." And so Tony Danza's like, "I think that means we need to get him a real piano." And then that's when they got the real piano.
Oh, well, they're on a television lot. I'm sure it wasn't that hard.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It looked like they stole it from a church anyway.
Yeah, I know, right? Probably did.
But I do love how when he gets up, he says, walk me over to that baby grand, and it's an upright. So maybe they just pretended that they had got him a baby grand, and they hoped he wouldn't notice it. Okay, so that's all I got for that. But those were fun. There's a bunch of other stuff on this DVD that I cannot wait to dig through. And I had to go find our DVD player, find the cords that go with it.
I know, and it's hooked up in the kitchen.
And then I hooked it up to the kitchen because our living room TV is obnoxiously large, and these are VHS recordings. So the person who gave me the DVD was like, you probably don't want to watch this on a very big TV because the quality is not going to be great.
Oh, I see.
So the kitchen TV is perfect for it. But anyway, yes. Okay, so today we're going to cover Season 4, Episode 3. The title is There Goes the Bride. It first aired on October 6, 1987. Oh, that's my mom's birthday. And the TV Guide summary says, matchmakers Tony and Angela hope that a blind date between two shy people will lead to romance. This episode was written by John Donnelly and Clay Graham. And they have written a few other episodes. I think I've talked about them a little bit before. They're a writing team that started on Benson, I believe.
Benson.
Worked on The Jeffersons, Different Strokes, Red Fox, Benson, and then they did a few episodes of Who's the Boss. So.
Different Strokes makes sense because no, I'm sorry. Was it Different Strokes? Because the creators of Who's the Boss were coming off of
Different Strokes. Oh, did they say that in one of those things we watched
tonight?
Earlier
It
today?
said that they were eager. Just coming off of Different Strokes, they were eager to start a new series.
Oh, okay. So that is interesting. So maybe they knew them from them.
Yeah.
And then, yes, how many episodes? So this is their second episode. Their first one was Walk on the Mild Side. Oh, and their next episode is the next episode we're going to cover, A Trip to the Principal. All right. Now, I did all that stuff, right? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Writers.
What that means?
All right. Yeah. No. Okay. All right. So when this episode starts, Tony and Angela are getting ready to go out. She comes.
Really quick though, there is an old movie from 1932 called "There Goes the Bride."
Oh, thank you very much. Really?
I was trying to figure out what the reference was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, my thought was the reference is "Here Comes the Bride."
Oh, yeah, because there goes the bride.
Right, because she leaves.
I don't know. The description is a nervous advertising executive creates havoc on his daughter's wedding day, and he becomes obsessed with his dream girl who he keeps seeing everywhere but can't seem to catch. I guess that's There Goes the Bride. So it's probably more of a reference to Here Comes the Bride.
Yeah, but probably both, because I'm sure that somebody who wrote this knew about that movie. That is interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, hang on. I was going to say something, and now I don't remember.
Because I completely, again,
okay, so Angela comes down the stairs. She's dressed very nicely. She does a little twirl. Tony tells her she looks fantastic. And then she says, and you look, and she looks him up and down, and she goes, is that what you're going to wear?
That's funny. I've heard that before.
That is not true, is it? Maybe once or twice.
Yeah, it's rare. Yeah, it's been
rare,
especially obviously lately.
Right, I know, right?
Yeah, that's true. I haven't heard that in a long time.
But that's because we don't go anywhere.
All right.
And he says, "What? The socks are wrong, aren't they?" And he lifts up his little jeans, and you can see
little blue
cute,
socks.
cute little blue socks. And she says, "No, I just thought that you needed a jacket and a tie." For L'Etoile. Yes. So some fancy French restaurant.
I wonder what that means. I'm going to look it up.
And Tony says, oh, yeah. And Tony says, oh, I forgot to tell you. I canceled that reservation. I made another one at the Boar's Head Pub. And Angela's like, oh, okay, great. She looks down at her own outfit. She's like, the Boar's Head Pub for a blind date? And she explains, I chose L'Etoile for its ambiance. And Tony's like, the Boar's Head Pub has plenty of ambiance, and you can throw your peanut shells right on the floor. Yeah.
I like a place like that.
Of course you do. You and Tony can go hang out at the Boar's Head Pub. Now, do you think Boar's Head Pub is also Boar's Head meat, or is Boar's Head just like a common name for something like that?
No, I think it's just a common name.
Just a common name.
I think. Maybe not.
Boar's Head meat makes me think of Publix subs from Florida, and then I want one.
L'Etoile means the star.
Oh, okay. That's very
French.
cute, actually.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it wasn't Chez Rene. I didn't realize there's 2 French restaurants close by in town.
Well, here's the thing, too. When I just looked it up, a ton of restaurants came up, Latois.
Oh, okay. So it's
in a bunch of different
popular
places. So it's a popular name for a restaurant.
Interesting. Okay.
The Star.
So then Angela says, "Oh, that sounds charming. Do they also have spittoons?" And he says, "Yes, real ones, brass." It's a classy place. So they're kind of arguing,
Brass.
and Tony's like, "Now, hang on. We need to set a good example tonight. So we have to get Lyle and Christy to think that we actually like each other." And Angela says, "Now, do you think this was a good idea?" So now they have to set up what's happening here. Angela says, "You think this was a good idea, setting them up?" And Tony says, "Are you kidding me? Your cousin, my old buddy." Okay, so we now know that
we've never heard of.
Right, this is Angela's
But
cousin.
still lives locally.
Right, we've seen how many holidays we've never met Christy.
Yeah.
And this guy's his friend. We've never seen him before. But Tony says, "Your cousin, my old buddy, it's in the bag." And then he does a few good snaps and hand jives.
The
whatever he's doing.
Tony Danza snapping.
So now Angela's kind of like, pushing lint off his sweater and just making sure he looks good right as Mona and Samantha walk in the house. And
shopping,
Angela says, I'm just nervous because we've never done anything like this before. And Tony says, "Look, if sparks fly, it's terrific.
Terrific.
But if they don't, at least we gave romance a shot." So now Mona and Samantha are excited. And Mona says, "Well, it's about time. After 3 years of heavy breathing." Mostly on my part. And Samantha's like, "You two crazy kids, I just want you to know that you have my approval." Oh, something else super cute that I saw in the TV. What did I call this thing earlier? TV time? I don't even
time?
remember.
I don't know.
I don't remember
Time.
now. But the TV thing I was watching earlier on Who's the Boss, they were talking about how there was a lot of discussions back and forth about when Tony and Angela should get together. And most of them were pushing it off, but they were like, but 2 people really wanted them to get together. And they showed Alyssa Milano, and she said, "I wanted Angela to be Samantha's stepmom."
Aw.
I know, that was really cute. And the other one was Judith. She was like, "I thought we could have consummated it and still kept it sexy." So they were on our side. Okay, so Samantha's like, "You guys have my approval." And they're like, "Oh, wait, no, you thought we were going out? No. And they laugh it off. And then Mona's like, "Well, I should have known better." But she tells Angela, "You better not wait too long because soon you're going to be out of warranty."
Out of warranty, meaning
Thanks, Mom.
too old.
Right. Thanks, Mom. So Angela explains, no, we're setting up Lyle, Tony's friend Lyle, and Christy. And Samantha's like, "Lyle?" And then Mona says, "Christy?" So Angela asks, "Well, what's wrong with Lyle?" And Samantha says, "He's such a fungus."
Fungus. Is that a big thing then? Call somebody a fungus?
I guess
in the
so.
80s? You're
Yeah.
a fungus.
And then Tony's like, "Well, what's wrong with Christy?" So I love how Samantha's very familiar with this Lyle guy that no one's ever met.
I know. That's funny.
But yeah, Samantha says all he ever talks about is sports and medicine. And Tony says, "Well, that's because he's a sports doctor." And Mona's like, "You think that's bad? Wait till you meet Christy. She's 30 and she's had 3 dates. That's a date a decade."
A decade.
So Tony's like, "A decade?" And he starts freaking out. And Angela's like, "Mother, will you stop it? She's a member of our family." And she's like, "You can't talk bad about her." And then Mona's like, "Well, you're a member of the family." And she gets up and walks out.
Of course.
So Samantha's like, "It'll be fine. It'll work out. Like what they say, nerds of a feather." So they get her out the door. And
Nerds of a feather.
they're back in the living room alone. And Tony's like, "Are you telling me that she's only had a date a decade?" And he says this is her first date in the 80s. And Angela's like, "No, this is her second date in the 80s because she didn't have any dates in the 60s. But that would have been because Christy was 3.
Oh, that's a good point.
She would have been born in 67 if she's 30 here. So Angela says, some of us are just a little more particular about the fungus that we go out with.
The fungus.
So the doorbell rings and Tony goes and answers it. And this is Lyle. So this actor is James Sloyan.
I wanted to know about him.
Yes. He has been in a ton of stuff.
Really?
And is another one where I can't really picture exactly what I know him from. But he was in so many things in the 80s. He is in the movie Xanadu, which is another one of my absolute favorites as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to rewatch it.
We just recently watched it, didn't we?
No, and I have not rewatched it, and I'm nervous
But in the last couple of years, we watched it.
I don't think I have.
Oh.
Xanadu
Did I sit
with
here and watch
Olivia
Xanadu by myself?
Possibly. It's Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I swear we watched it a couple years ago.
There's another one called Two of a Kind. We might have watched that one.
No, I'm positive it was
Really? Xanadu with the roller skating?
I feel like we even watched it when your mother was here or something.
I don't remember
somebody
that,
was here.
but I'm not surprised.
Again, maybe I watched it by myself and I'm making this up.
He was in Moonlighting. He was on an episode of The X-Files also, which
Dr.
I kind
Quinn, Medicine
of
Woman.
remember. Yes, he's in 3 episodes, I think, of Dr.
saw
Quinn,
that.
Medicine Woman. But I kind of can picture his face, but I don't know. But yes, he's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he's just,
He's just one of those character actors that has a recognizable face. And I thought that I might have recognized him from Star Trek, but I think I'm getting him confused with the guy who plays Data, because he kind of looks like him. Is that the right guy? Data?
Data? I'm lost on Star Trek.
Yeah, I kind of am too. But so now he comes in and Tony's like, hey, Doc, how you doing? Come on in. And he says, Angela, I want you to meet Dr. Lyle Everett. So I don't know if it's just this syndicated episode or if it is how it was broadcast originally, but they don't do a very good job of explaining how Tony knows Lyle.
Yeah, that's exactly my point.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned that earlier to you. I'm like, how does he know him? And you think somebody who worked for the... Well, no, they actually don't explain he works for the Rangers, do they?
Yeah, they do.
In this episode?
Yeah.
Okay. So somebody who worked for the Rangers, you think he would have been around because Tony would get free tickets to the Ranger games.
Oh, yeah, that's a very good point.
You think you'd see him.
Okay.
But I know how this works, sorry.
I have this final draft of the script, and it does explain it here, so I'll read it. But he introduces Angela to Dr. Lyle Everett, MD, PhD, and all-around fun guy. And Angela says, oh, fun guy.
Fun guy.
So I've heard. So in the script, Lyle and Angela shake hands. Lyle says, good firm handshake. Does Tony have you pumping iron? And Angela says, oh no, I don't even pump my own gas. Which... could there not have been a statement that describes Angela more than that?
No.
And I know we don't really see this that often anymore, but you used to be able to just pull up and have someone pump your gas. Do they still do that?
It's called full service.
Yeah.
Yes, and I know in East Coast or Northern, on the East Coast, in New York and stuff, it's big.
It was big in Florida. I don't
not anymore.
Seen it in years.
I don't think it's been in Florida in years.
And I don't think I've ever
It used to be
seen it
self-service
here.
and full service. Now
Right.
everything is just self-service. It doesn't even say at the sign anymore. It's just gas pumps.
Yeah, just you're on your own.
Yeah.
So then Lyle says to Tony, how's the shoulder? And Tony says, great. And then Tony explains to Angela, I really owe this guy. When I threw out my shoulder playing ball, he did the operation. Before the surgery, I couldn't even do, and he raises his arm and then he's like, ah. And then he looks at Lyle and he's like, I'm just pulling your femur.
Okay.
And Angela says, you guys.
Wacky.
Yes. So I don't know if that was cut originally or if that was just cut out of syndication. So at least there
Interesting.
they do explain how they know each other a little better. So now Tony's asked, how was your day? Lyle says, I had a killer day. The last case was really interesting. I thought the player was diagnosed with having a sprained tibial posterior, but after careful examination, I found that it was a hairline fracture. And he's really excited when he's talking about this. You can tell he loves his job and he loves sports. Yeah. So Angela's like, oh, amazing. Now the doorbell rings again. And Tony gets up to answer that. They're like, oh, wait, I'm sorry. Angela gets up to answer it.
Right, yeah.
Tony
And it's
says,
Christy.
I've heard great things about this girl. This is her decade. So
And then he's like, Lyle's like, what?
So Angela enters the door, and there's Christy. She's very mousy. She's very shy, very reserved. This actress is named
Oh, yeah.
Carrie Lizer. Okay. This is amazing. So now, when I went to look her up, she hasn't acted in years. Let me see when she acted last. She has like 26 acting credits. Oh, she last acted in 2011.
Oh, okay.
She did, she played Connie on Will and Grace between 2001 and 2004. The Weird Science TV show. She's on an episode of Murphy Brown. Okay, but since then, she has become an executive producer. So she worked as the executive producer for 88 episodes of the television show New Adventures of Old Christine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we loved that show.
Yeah, it was a great show.
We actually saw that show live.
We
here.
did.
Did we live here or did we come out on a trip and see it?
That's a good question. I think, we actually lived here.
I think we did live
We
there.
lived here
King of
because somebody
Queens,
was
I think
visiting.
We saw that on a trip.
Somebody was visiting us and we took them.
Yeah, that's the thing to do.
Yeah. So we took them for that show. King of Queens, we were not living here
Right,
yet.
that we were on a vacation. We did that. And now she is executive producer of the television show Call Your Mother. I have not seen this show, but it is on Hulu. And Kira Sedgwick is in it. And I believe also the son from Liv and Maddie, our kids would love it. Who played
Joey Bragg.
Joey is on it. Yeah.
So
So I just love when I see stuff like that. Like this woman now has this completely different, very successful career also in the entertainment industry. And then probably like as a fun party thing, she's like, I was on an episode of whatever, Murphy Brown, Who's the Boss, Will and Grace 1,000 years ago.
that's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, I love it. So I'm sorry, not 1,000 years ago, because that makes it sound like she's very old. I just mean that in the way that we all talk about the 80s.
Right.
But 87. Okay, so Christy comes in and Angela's like, you look great. Tony's like, it's so nice to meet you. And he's getting Lyle, come on over. And he says, Christy, I want you to meet Lyle. What?
I know, that is just funny the way you said it.
But yeah, he's like rounding up Lyle because Lyle's not going to move off that couch if he doesn't
sitting
help
there
him.
thinking about femurs.
Yeah. So the two of them are so shy and awkward. They might as well be in middle school here. He's just like, hi. She says, hi. And then she apologizes for being late. And Angela's like, oh, you're not late. You're actually a little early. And then she apologizes for being early.
Right.
She's like, I'm sorry. The traffic was light. I'm sorry. And Tony's like, it's okay. You don't need to apologize. Like, let's just relax. So he tries to get them into the living room.
And then she apologizes for apologizing too much.
Yes. So Tony's like, come on, let's all go in the living room and talk before we have to leave for the restaurant. And Angela's like, well, let's let Lyle and Christy sit on the couch because it's more conversational. I like how Angela is directing Tony very much like a wife here.
I know.
So they sit down. Tony's trying to get the conversation started.
Oh, for anyone who cares, it's Boom Mic City here. There's
Oh,
a big
right.
Boom Mic
yes,
shot.
as they're walking into the living room, the boom mic hangs out in the top left corner of the scene for
Real
a
bad.
little bit there. But again, like I
you
guess
would not have seen it.
yeah, because you would have had a tube TV that
And
had
they
the
would have cut
rounded
off the
corners,
yeah.
so you wouldn't have noticed it.
Yep.
So he's trying to get them to talk a bit, and he says, Lyle had a very fascinating day. Tell us about it, Lyle. And Lyle's like, a guy had a busted foot and I fixed it.
I know. Before it was like so descriptive. Now all of a sudden Lyle's got nothing.
But Tony's trying to keep it going. He's like, he's like, he's so interesting. And then he says, Lyle is a top doctor and he works for the New York Rangers. And then Angela's like, oh, well, what a coincidence, because Christy is a teacher for the New York public school system. And they're like, oh, small world.
Wow.
So they both have jobs in New York. Small world. And so Angela says to Christy, being a school teacher must be very challenging. And Christy's like, I guess. And then Tony says, I bet you have so many fascinating stories. And before he can even get, the woman's timing here is
it's incredible.
Fantastic. And like, when I read over the script, It doesn't say that she cuts him off or anything, but before he can even get out, you must have fast. No.
I know. It's awesome.
She's
it's just misery.
Her character here is a little bit of Angela Martin in The Office.
It is a little bit, yeah. Oh,
But like
totally
Angela's
see
a little
that.
more bitchy than she is, but kind of that just like no nonsense, not smiling here at all. So Tony and Angela are still trying to do whatever they can to keep this going. And Tony's like, isn't this fun? This is so fun. We've got good company and this is so great. So
Good conversation, he says.
yes, good conversation. Now, we never actually see what happens on the date. It cuts to the next morning. Now, the next morning, Tony's up bright and early, and
Vacuuming under the couch.
Yes, he's actually lifting the couch up and vacuuming underneath it. Do you think he does that all the time? And that must be a pretty,
Yes, he
couch.
probably does.
So Angela comes downstairs. She's still in her bathrobe. He's fully dressed. And she's like, what are you doing up so early? And he says, I got plenty of sleep on the date last night.
During the day.
Yeah. So we know here that the date was pretty boring. But Angela's like, it wasn't that bad. And she says, I saw the way he put his arm around her. And Tony's like, Angela, he was giving her the Heimlich maneuver. She was choking on a mouthful of mutton.
Mutton.
And Angela says, but he maneuvered her very tenderly. So she's insisting. If you look closely, you could see that they had a real connection. They were connecting. And Tony's like, are you kidding me? They said 3 words to each other the whole night. Hello, goodbye, and I'm choking.
I know.
So Judith Light does something really subtle here that I think is cute. The doorbell rings, and she's been downstairs now this whole time in like her bathrobe. She's just woken up. And when Tony now goes to answer the door and she goes to the door, she's kind of holding the front of her bathrobe together because now there are guests in the house. But I think it's cute that she doesn't worry about that with Tony anymore.
Yeah.
Like they've lived together for 3 years now. He's seen her in her bathrobe and her nightgown. So
That's
she's
true.
not
He's
worried
seen her
about
naked.
That is true. He has seen her naked. So she's not very worried about him ogling her in her nightgown or anything. She feels comfortable around him. But I thought that was a cute choice on either the actor's part. It's not in the script at all, but I just wonder if that was a choice that she made for her character. So Tony goes and answers the door. And standing at the door is Lyle and Christy. Forgot her name.
Christy.
So...
And where'd they come from?
Yes, so it's very early. They're both all fully dressed. And Lyle says, we have something really exciting to tell you. But if this is a bad time, we can come back later. And they're like, no, come on in. So they come into the house and they're very giggly now. Christy's like, you tell him. He's like, no, you tell him. No, you tell him. So Tony's like, will somebody just tell us, please? And she holds up her hand and she says, we're getting married. So she has a ring on her finger. So yeah, so at some point between the date, people on this show like to get married quickly.
Yeah, things happen. They move.
Yeah, it's like you find someone and you ask them to marry you. You don't go on dates.
No.
Like why? Why would you bother with that?
Around. Life's too short.
Exactly. So she says, we're getting married. And Tony's like, whoa, look at the carats on that ring. And Lyle's like, it's just a few, I don't remember what he says, ligament surgeries.
Yeah, something like that. Ligament.
Yeah. And Christy thinks he's the funniest thing. She's like, he really breaks me up. So Tony wants to hear more. He's like, okay, well, come sit down and tell us what happened. So Lyle explains that something magical happened last night.
Oh, boy.
And he says that she sprained her ankle. And Tony's like, oh, is that when you tripped over the spittoon?
Which is great. They circled back to the spittoons.
Yeah. Yes, I love the spittoon callback and the fact that Christy tripped over one when they were at the restaurant. So she says, no, this was later when I was getting into a cab. I got my foot tangled up in the seatbelt.
Now, which is ridiculous. But let me just tell you something from experience of having sprained my ankle before. She would not be walking right now.
I know. Yeah, like her
Suddenly
ankle is completely
healed.
fine today.
He's so good.
Yeah.
He healed the ankle.
Right. His love healed the ankle.
Yeah.
Now, in the script, it said that her foot got tangled up in the jump seat. What is a jump seat?
Jumps? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they didn't.
Jump seat.
I feel like that's a seat that's in the back, like an extra seat in the back of like a SUV or some sort of sports utility vehicle. So maybe they were like, that doesn't make any sense, and they changed it to seatbelt.
That which really makes. How did her leg
Right.
get caught up in a seatbelt? And it doesn't even go around your leg. Like what
she
was
was
happening
trying to
in the
get
car?
out of the car. She somehow got her leg tangled up in the seatbelt.
All right.
So Angela says, well, it sounds like kismet. And he says, no, that was later when it swelled up and she called me.
Oh.
And then
So the date was over, but somehow she had his number and called him.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, they must have exchanged numbers.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
guess.
I'm guessing Tony and Angela sent them home with each other's numbers, or they had it beforehand, because there's no way these two actually exchanged numbers on the date.
No.
So she called, or she looked
but
him up in the
also,
book. I don't know.
He gave her the Heimlich maneuver and fixed her sprained ankle.
Maybe that's why she wants to marry him.
Yeah, hell of a
She's
night.
like, if I won't be alive much longer unless I keep you close.
Okay.
So she says he came over, he made a house call, and then Tony's like, yeah, and then what happened? And he's like, well, I applied a cold compress and I elevated her foot.
Yeah, I know,
he's
he's
like,
explaining.
He's like, no, I mean, what happened between you and Christy? So they say that they just started talking and laughing, and they stayed up all night getting to know each other. So this was it. And he says that she has finger painting stories that will slay you. So I guess she did find some fascinating stories about being a school teacher.
Finger painting stories.
So they're very excited, and Angela's like, okay, well, welcome to the family, Cousin Lyle. So she gives them a hug. Everybody's very excited. So now
she's in a wedding dress. Like what?
Yeah, we waste no
how much
time.
transpired here?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Before they cut to the wedding, Tony says, I knew it. I knew it all along. And Angela gives him a look of death.
Right.
Yeah, you knew nothing. And then he's like, very deep down inside.
All right, Tony, shut up.
All right, so now it's the day of the wedding. We don't know how much time's passed. Let's say at least a week. Angela would need at least a week to figure out this little wedding, right?
I guess. I don't know.
So,
like no explanation. There's not even a reference to, wow, I can't believe you guys got engaged only a month ago.
Oh, right. Or
like
I can't
no
believe you pulled
reference
this
of time.
together in a week.
Nothing.
Yeah, no.
Here we are in Angela's room.
So she's putting this like strange headband on her hair. Like,
Yeah.
I don't hate this wedding dress that much for it being the 80s, but did you just turn the lights off?
I did.
Outside? Oh,
Sorry.
okay. And Mona's trying to take a picture of her, and she's like, smile, dear. And then Christy's like, I am smiling. And then Mona just rolls her eyes while taking the
snaps
picture.
the picture.
Yeah.
Of course, Mona.
So Mona has never bonded very well with this niece of hers.
That's a good point.
So Angela says, you're a lovely bride, and Christy thanks her, and then Angela's like, mother, like trying to get her to also say she looks lovely. And Mona's like, oh yeah, ditto. So Christy is
once again
profusely thanking Angela for, one, introducing her to Lyle, two, letting them have this wedding here. And she's like, I cannot thank you enough. And Mona's like, really, you can thank us enough.
Mona's had it. She's like, enough already.
Right. So Angela's like, okay, well, you look all ready to go. You look beautiful. You have something new, something borrowed. And then she's like, oh no, we need something blue. And Christy says, it's my ankle.
Right.
So she can walk
'Cause it's
okay
black
on
and
it,
blue.
but I guess it is black and blue. Yes. And then she says that Lyle told her that one.
Seatbelt really got a piece of her.
Now, if you watch this on Crackle, they cut the heck out of this scene. So the Roku channel, which is what's streaming right now, has a much better version of it. So then Mona comes over to Christy and says, do you have any questions for your Aunt Mona about the wedding night, about what happens after the wedding?
Okay. So
we're to assume that this 30-year-old woman knows nothing about sex.
Yes.
It's like it's Bridgerton here. Oh, you didn't watch Bridgerton. But it's like it's old days. So
old days.
Regency era. So Christy says, oh, no questions. Lyle and I have a book.
So Lyle has never gotten anything.
I mean, I guess so. You know what I didn't look, though,
Lyle's a
that I wanted
doctor.
to
I mean-
check? Yeah, I mean, Lyle would have gotten something. He looks like he's about 46, too, which was the other thing I wanted to check, which is the age difference between these two actors, because I feel like she's quite a bit younger than he is. Okay, so Lyle was born in 1940. Can you do the math on that while I go to
1940 is 47.
Carrie? Okay.
He'd be 47. Right? This is an 87?
Yeah, this is 87.
Yeah, so he'd be about 47.
And she was born in 61.
So she was 20...
21 years younger than him.
Yeah, she was 26.
Okay, so if she's 30, then Lyle is a 51-year-old virgin, which makes him older than Steve Carell and the 40-year-old virgin. All right. So
God.
who knows? Maybe Lyle's just pretending he doesn't know. So
And this is it's Angela's cousin. Yeah, I guess that could be, that's normal. I mean, the age difference could be, it's not unusual or anything.
Yeah,
Never
that's
mind.
true.
Never mind.
But they do, okay, so she's 30. I mean, Angela's what? Angela's like 37 here,
Yeah, I
so she's
think
not that
so.
much older than her.
Yeah, it's true.
And we find out that this is Mona's sister's daughter.
Okay.
Now, the other funny thing about this is I always thought that on IMDb to update stuff, you had to have a pro account.
Mm-hmm.
But her name for this episode, Carrie Lizer, it says Christy Bauer Everett, which doesn't make any sense because she would have never been a Bauer. She wouldn't have even been a Robinson.
Right.
So
She
she would have
would have been a Bauer.
I think I found out in this one of the episodes we were just watching earlier tonight about Who's the Boss, that Mona's maiden name was Rockefeller. So she would have been, but she wouldn't have even been a Rockefeller because her sister would have most likely had her husband's name. So anyway, I don't know who updated that as Christy Bauer Everett, but on the actual credits, she's only listed as Christy.
Glad we cleared that up.
So anyway, she says, we have a book. And then Mona asks, is it a pop-up book?
I know. And it's funny because up until that point, Angela's in the background and she's kind of like, oh, you know, whatever. And then the pop-up part comes and Angela's like, okay, that's enough.
Like for a minute when Angela's listening to Mona ask if she needs any advice on the wedding night, Angela's all like, oh, she's going to tell her about sex.
Right.
And then it doesn't have any pop-up pictures.
Right.
And Angela's like, you're out of here. And then just shuffles her right out of the room. Well, they had to get Angela and Christy alone together. So Angela says to Christy, this is going to be a perfect wedding. I ordered the cake from Antoine's, the flowers from Blossom Boutique, and the book from B. Dalton's. So Angela got her the book.
Oh, that's nice.
That's very sweet. So they're like giggling and stuff, and Angela's like, you know, your groom is downstairs just counting the seconds until he sees his beautiful bride. So they're very excited. But downstairs, the guys are very excited over a hockey game. So there's a bunch of guys crowded around the TV watching the hockey game.
With
and
Samantha.
And like the minister is watching, Lyle's watching, everybody's watching. And it seems like they're getting to the end of the game and there's a commercial and they're like, uh-oh, what are we going to do? And then Tony's like, this is when everybody goes to the bathroom.
Mad rush.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows, the minister is I don't have his name.
Hang on, I have his name.
But
Richard Fancy.
That's what it was. I remember it was something like that. Who was what I remember him as Mr. Lippman on Seinfeld.
Yes. Yeah, he also has done quite a few things.
He's worked a lot, yeah.
But so Tony's like, yeah, everyone's going to go to the bathroom. And then the minister says, thank God. And he heads straight for the bathroom.
Well, that's funny.
I know. So silly. So what has he been in? I mean,
I read a ton of stuff. My computer died.
Yeah. Oh, what happened? Gary Shandling Show.
Okay, yeah.
Murphy Brown, The Wonder Years, Star Trek The Next Generation, Doogie Howser, MD, LA Law.
Wow.
Empty Nest. Yeah, I mean, just a ton of stuff. Lots of character acting. I don't see anything. Yeah, and then Seinfeld, 10 episodes of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
I don't see anything where he had like a larger stint than that. 13 episodes of a TV show called The District, which I do not remember.
Me either.
He was on General Hospital a bit. 134 acting credits. Still working today. He has something coming out in 2020. He's in the 2020 season of Grace and Frankie.
He has something coming out in 2020.
Trailerville,
It's
USA.
2021.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. I forgot, actually. But that's close enough. I mean, he's still working today.
Oh, yeah. No, it's just funny that you said that. He's
Right.
got something coming out in 2020.
Sorry.
4 months into 2021.
It came out last year. Nobody noticed, though, because no one's doing anything. Okay, so Mona comes downstairs with the camera since she's been kicked out of the bedroom, and she's
Yes.
like, the photographer's here. And Tony's like, oh, great, you want to get a picture of Lyle with his best man? And she's like, no, I want you to take a picture of me and these two hockey players.
I know, immediately.
All right. So she hands Tony the camera, and she gets in between these two big hockey players, and he takes a picture. And for some reason, he says, say Brie.
That's because she wants to take a picture with Jean-Claude and Pierre.
Oh, she says
So-
okay. I didn't.
they're like-
I totally missed where she said their names. Okay, so that makes
Yeah.
sense. So instead,
Silly.
So
Say
stupid.
Brie. That'd be like if someone took a picture of him and they say cannoli.
no, because it's still a type of cheese. It would be like say Parmesan.
Oh, Parmesan. Oh, cheese. Right. Gosh, now I feel stupid. Cannoli.
I will always smile though if somebody says say cannoli.
I have a feeling.
Okay, so they all say Brie, and he takes a picture. Now, this may be my favorite part of the entire episode. Jonathan crosses in front of them and walks back towards the television, and he looks at the TV and he says, hey, are they allowed to break their sticks? So, over on the other one's head. So Tony realizes that something interesting is going on the TV. He comes over, he picks up Jonathan, and then
Yeah.
he tosses him into the side chair.
I know. I was like, whoa, when that happened.
It's so cute. And it's not in the script. So in the script, it doesn't say anything about him touching him at all. So I wonder if they just like worked that out in rehearsals and thought it would be cute. Because it is super cute. And
is.
also slightly dangerous that he didn't just
I know,
chuck
he
him
could have
over
went flying over that chair.
right into that TV. I mean, he knew the weight of that kid by then. It was like, he probably was very familiar with him. So it's just so cute how he throws him like that. So they all can't believe it. They go running back over. Now, Angela comes downstairs and she says, it's time to get ready. The bride's ready. And no one's listening to her because they're all very involved in this game. And
Which
Mona-
is ridiculous, must I say.
that they're all involved in this game.
Yeah, it's a guy's wedding day.
Exactly. I totally agree. I get that there's only a couple minutes left in it, so whatever.
And it is a house wedding.
It is a house wedding, but you would think that Lyle would be like, first of all, just nervous and ready to throw up because it's his wedding day. And two, a little more engaged at this point. But this is how Lyle is. So Mona's like, she's waited 30 years. A few more seconds isn't going to matter. But Angela's getting agitated, perturbed.
Yes.
And Tony's like, the wedding's scheduled for 4. It's 3:59 and 10 seconds. Like, just hang on. And Angela says, I didn't realize we were organizing this wedding around a hockey game.
Mm-hmm.
Tony says he's a born organizer, and then he's snapping. But
course he
Lyle's
is.
like, oh, hang on. Maybe she's right. And he gets up and he's ready to get married. But Tony says, wait, how can we even start? The organist isn't here. So Lyle's like, oh, okay. And he sits back down. The doorbell rings and Angela's like, and she goes over the door, opens it, and this is the organist, whose name is Gary, we'll find out later. He's played by a man named Scotch Byerly. Hang on, I'll look him up. Okay, so...
Scotch Byerly.
Yeah. So Angela's like, oh, great, you're just in time. And he says, I know, there's 38 seconds left. So he runs in to watch the end of the game also. So the other thing, too, I guess we have to understand about Lyle is that not only is he the doctor for the Rangers, these are all
Right.
hockey players. And the guy who just came in, who's the organist, is also the organist for the hockey team. So they're all very into hockey.
Yes.
Oh, Scotch Byerly was also in an episode of Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. He hasn't acted since 1995, but he was in a lot of stuff in the 80s.
Oh,
Quantum
really?
Leap,
Oh, yeah.
Sister, Coach, LA Law. So when I first saw this episode, I thought it was Jay Moore. Is that who I thought it was?
Yeah, but it wouldn't make any sense. Jay
No.
Moore would have been a child.
Yeah, I realized that afterwards.
Well, I mean, he would have been probably maybe a little bit older.
Yeah,
than
how old?
Alyssa Milano.
Yeah.
Jay Moore's got to be like 50.
Yeah, he's probably
That'd
like a
be my
teenager.
guess.
Okay, so Gary gets in. He wants to watch the game also. Now, if you notice, there's like 2 women that are just hanging out in the back that don't speak and that aren't watching the hockey game. And we'll see them a little more clearly in a minute. So the game's almost over, but then it goes into sudden death, which I have no idea what that means, but I guess it's a hockey term that's tied. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
I'm not big with hockey, but I think it just means whoever scores then sudden
Next
death
will
wins.
win. Okay. So Jonathan's like, tough luck, Mom. So Angela goes back upstairs and everyone's cheering around the TV. So when Angela gets upstairs, she stands in front of the mirror so Christy can no longer see herself.
I know, so silly.
And she's like, you're not going to believe this, but your wedding is being delayed because of a hockey game. And Christy's like, I know, Lyle really loves hockey. She's like, it's okay. And Angela's like, it's not okay. But Christy says, well, he's already giving up the Rangers game tonight. So I guess because it's their wedding night, he's not going to go to the Rangers game.
No, well, good for him.
Didn't we get married when like the Yankees were in the World Series or something?
Yeah, it was our honeymoon.
Yeah.
Yes. But yes.
Yeah, but you didn't have access to TV where we were, right?
No,
I don't remember you
because we
trying-
went on a cruise ship.
Yeah, yeah.
We were on a cruise ship, and the Yankees were playing the Red Sox.
Sorry.
It's all right. It ended poorly. It was 2004. If anyone knows that reference,
Okay, so Angela says
the games, the series ended poorly, not the
honeymoon. Yeah, no, that
It was
went.
the best year of my life. It was the worst year of my life.
Yeah, the honeymoon went well. Okay, so Angela says this is the most important day of your life. Like you shouldn't be starting your marriage like this. He shouldn't be putting you on the back burner for some Neanderthal sport. And like you need to go and stand up for yourself. So Christy's like, oh, I never really thought about it that way. And Angela's like, well, you should. And she's like, okay, well, if you think I should. So Angela's getting upset here, and you can tell that she's projecting a lot of her own feelings onto Christy.
Yeah.
Because she says, men suck the romance out of everything, and we let them.
And see, yes. But the funny thing is, though, it's all of a sudden you're right, she's frustrated, she's saying all these things, and then when Christy,
Yeah.
I keep forgetting this woman's name, decides to go downstairs and do it, then Angela's like, oh, wait.
Yeah,
I don't
do it
know.
after the wedding.
Right.
Right.
Like, yeah, hang on. After she gets her all riled up to go do it, then it's like, no, actually don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, so we found out last episode that, or was it 2 episodes ago? Yeah, that Angela proposed to Michael. And knowing Michael the way we do,
Right.
he probably wasn't like the most romantic guy and probably did something dumb on their wedding. Who
Probably.
knows? So you can tell she's like pulling up a lot of those feelings as well. So, and then when Christy's like, yeah, you're right, I'm going to go down there and stand up for myself, Angela says, yeah, no, hang on, do it after like, this isn't worth not getting married.
Right.
This is just, you need to yell at him later.
Yeah, exactly.
So back downstairs, the whole crowd is still cheering over the hockey game. And Christy comes down, she goes over to Lyle and she says, I'm ready to get married now. And he's like, okay, yeah. And she's like, no, I'm ready to get married right now. So he looks at her and then he realizes, he's like, oh, yes, you're right. But then he gets distracted because something big happens in the game. So she says, you're ignoring my needs. Sudden death is no way to start a marriage.
So there's no way to start a marriage.
She says, it's fine. It's over. So she walks away. She takes her veil off and her little dumb headband that I don't even know what it was.
Yeah.
And Angela's like, wait a minute, it's just a little delay. There's no reason to do anything rash. And she says to Angela, no, you were right. And I need to stand up for myself. And thank you very much for a lovely day.
Thank you very much. It hasn't been lovely. It's been awful. At least to this point.
So she says goodbye. She hands Angela the bouquet of flowers and she walks out. So now Angela's standing there and everybody starts cheering really loudly because the game is over. So they're like, woo, we won, we did it, okay. Tony says, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm in the mood for a wedding. And Angela says, okay, good. You can marry Lyle. And she hands him the bouquet.
I'm in the mood for a wedding.
So there's another part here that's cut out that I have from the script. Hang on. Mr. Lippman, right? Is that his name?
Yeah, Lippman.
Yeah, he would have gotten some more lines. So again, this could have been in the original broadcast and just cut out of all the syndicated versions that are out there. But so when they come back from commercial, Angela says, thank you, Reverend. I'm sure it would have been a lovely ceremony. And he's leaving. So Tony's like, sorry to drag you out here for nothing. And then the minister says, for nothing? And he looks at Angela and Angela looks at Tony. And then Angela's like, excuse us, Reverend. And she pulls Tony aside and she says, Tony, you have to pay the man. And he says, for what? All he did was eat hors d'oeuvres, drink champagne, watch the hockey game. He should be paying us. And Angela says, it doesn't work that way. His time is valuable. He could have been cleaning stained glass windows. What?
I don't know.
So then Tony says to Angela, okay, so pay him. And she says, me, you're the best man. And Tony says, yes, but it's the bride's family who coughs up the bucks. Besides, why should my boy pay? He was ready to go the distance. So Angela says, all right. And she gets her purse, pulls out a few bills, looks at the minister, and he's looking at her, and then she gives him another bill. So he says, bless you, and then he leaves. And then Mona comes in from the kitchen eating wedding cake. And Mona says, well, the wedding was a bomb, but the cake hit the spot. And then they say, she says, I should have sent Lyle home with a piece. So that explains why when we pick up here, Catherine Hellman is wiping her mouth with a napkin. So then Angela says, you know, I hope Lyle's okay. Poor guy looked really depressed when he left. And Tony's like, you're not kidding. He wouldn't even stay for the after game. So Mona says, now Angela's eating cake. So Mona says, you know, maybe he's just not the marrying type. And Tony's like, yeah, you know, that makes sense because his mother wasn't married either. Maybe it runs in the family. Now, Jonathan's walking behind them and he hears that. And he's like, wait a minute. If they weren't married, then where did he come from?
That's funny.
And Tony says, St. Louis.
Cool.
And Jonathan's like,
oh, yeah. Like,
and he
even
just
leaves
leaves.
even more concerned than he was before he asked.
And Tony's like, phew. But meanwhile, Angela doesn't even flinch. She's 0 Fs that her kid just asked about where, if someone can have a baby if they're not married.
I know.
So now Angela's quietly eating cake. And Tony's like, you know, I just don't get it. 1 minute she was the shrinking Violet, and the next minute she was Sigourney Weaver. So the only reason I can see that they picked Sigourney Weaver here is because in 86, I think Aliens came out, and 84 Ghostbusters came out, or the other way around.
Oh, I see.
I looked it up and I don't remember. So I think he's just using that because she's a badass woman. And Mona says, you know, when I left her upstairs with Angela, she was just fine. And now they realize. So they both look at Angela and she looks back at them and she's like, you know, he says, we should have known. And Angela says, I just tried to light a fire under her. I didn't know she would explode. So now Mona says, well, you can thank your lucky stars. My sister is dead. What? Apparently, all of Lyle and Christy's family is dead because no one was at this wedding except for them, some hockey players,
right?
2 girls that we don't know who they are,
right?
Possibly Angela's other cousins, who knows, and the organist. So Mona gets mad and she leaves and goes into the kitchen. So now Tony's angrily starting to clean up what's left of this disaster of a wedding. And Angela goes, And Tony's like, what does that mean? Nothing. So then he wanders up around to clean up more, and he's like, huh. And she says, what'd you say? And he says, nothing. But then he says, you know, now that you mentioned it, I do have to say that, you know, I'm a little disappointed in you today. And Sorry. She's like, disappointed in me. And he says, for someone who loves love and romance so much, you certainly clubbed it to death.
Yeah.
But Angela says, I'm the one who planned this whole wedding. And I was looking forward to a really beautiful day where we could see two people off on a wonderful life together. So now here's another, and I'm probably just going a little too deep on this one, but I think maybe another reason why Angela's so mad here is because the last time they hosted or helped with a wedding for somebody, it was a super romantic day, not only for those people, but for them. Like, remember the Wedding Bells episode? They were all thinking about marrying each other, and it was just a really romantic day for them. And I think maybe Angela was hoping, I think she's disappointed also because not only did Christy's day not go well, but now she's fighting with Tony instead of like being all smitten. So she says, it was you in that dumb hockey game. And Tony's saying, no. And then she says, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but you've become totally insensitive. And Tony's like,
wow.
How on earth could I take that the wrong way?
Yeah, right.
So she says, you've changed. All I can say is that you've changed. And she says, you don't bring home flowers anymore. And then she's quick to say, for the house, not for her.
Right.
But for the house.
Make it very clear.
Yes. And he says, well, that was back in the days when you were more considerate, because if you were late, you would call, and now you don't. He says 20 minutes is nothing to you, but it means a lot to a roast. So Tony and Angela they've skipped over all the fun beginning part, and they've gone straight to being married for like 12 years.
I know, that's true.
With
so
none
true.
of the benefits of regular sex. Like, this is just them arguing with each other. So she says, well, what about you? When was the last time you baked me chocolate chip cookies with walnuts? Because you know that they're my favorite. And he says, I bake them all the time. You just eat them too fast.
Well, yeah, now it's like the gloves are off.
Right. Yeah, it's getting ugly. So then she's saying, you're always running off to some athletic event or the Parents Association meeting. And he says, well, what about you? You're always bringing home work. You hardly ever have any time to talk to me. And she says, excuse me for being professional. He says, excuse me for being responsible. And that's the end of their conversation.
Yeah.
Sam comes in the front door and she's like, hey, look who I found. And it's Christy, still in her wedding dress. So she wants to talk to Lyle. And Tony's like, well, you could talk to Lyle if he was here, but he's not here. And so she's like, oh, no, okay, I'll go. And he's like, no, come in. And so Christy's like, oh, so if Lyle left, I have to find him because I love him and I need to tell him this because he's liable to find another woman. And Samantha says, I think you have a few minutes.
Yeah, it's like, don't hold your breath on that one.
Yeah, I think you're okay. So now we cut to the Rangers game. So since Lyle didn't get married, he was like, well, at least I'm going to go to the Rangers game. So he actually did get to go to his game. And Gary he went straight to work after that wedding that didn't happen, and he's playing the organ. So they come down so I guess Tony, Angela, and Christy all went and bought tickets to this game, right? And now they're just looking for Lyle. I
guess so.
It's not like anyone's just going to let you in if you ask because you need to go find Lyle.
Right, right.
So, and then, I guess they probably bought cheap tickets and now they're just going to find him because there's no seats for them around him. So they're coming down the bleachers, and I love in this one shot, you see they're like trying to get to their seats, and they're acting as if they're squeezing between a row and a row of people like you would at the movie theater. But there's nothing in front of them. But then when they cut to the other shot, you see that it's because there's actually the plexiglass wall is supposed to be in front of them. But they must not have been able to get the shot they needed of them going into the seats with that wall being there. So they took it out, which they just like to do that on sitcoms. Like, really, when Tony's standing at that kitchen counter, I'm assuming there's a wall behind it, but there's not a wall because we're the wall. So. Oh,
I see. Interesting.
It's just silly. It's just funny how they're like trying to squeeze by when there's really no one there.
Right.
So they get to Christy goes after Lyle, and then Angela goes to go next. And Tony's like, no, we already know you've caused enough trouble. You stay here. I'm going in. So Tony goes in after Christy, and he sits down. And he sits down in the last empty seat. And then Angela follows, and Tony's like, oh, I'm sorry. There are no empty seats. And she's like, oh, I found one. And she sits in his lap.
Yeah, it was just awesome.
Yeah. So Christy says to Lyle, I think we have to talk. And Tony's like, listen to her, because this is probably going to be the most important conversation of your whole life. By the way, what's the score?
Right.
And Lyle says it's Rangers 3-1. And then Tony's screaming, all right, Rangers. And he's banging on the plexiglass, and the hockey players are banging into it. And this is the worst 5 seconds of Angela's life.
I know. And the fake fighting, it's so bad. They're like, you could see the hockey players laughing.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
that's
you can,
awesome.
especially the second time.
So Christy says to Lyle, I'm sorry I walked out on you. And he's like, you're sorry. I'm sorry. So everybody loves to apologize in this episode. And Christy says, you're sorry? And then Tony's like, look, okay, I get it. You're both sorry. And then this may be my second favorite part, or my favorite part of the entire episode. Then he says to Angela, hey, Angela, can you shift your weight a little bit? And then she says, sorry. She moves.
Yeah.
And then she pops back up like she sat on something. And then they both look. And she says, oops. And then he looks embarrassed and she looks embarrassed.
I know. It's like, what was happening there?
So again, this is not in the script. All it says in the script is, Angela, can you give me hang on. Angela, can you move a bit? And then she just says, sorry, oops. And there's no like stage direction that says what happens here. My thought is maybe they didn't want to put it in the script because they were worried it would get caught by any censors.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The other thing is maybe they just decided to do this on the fly because they thought it would be funny. But the other thing is this is probably the raciest scene. I mean, as far as what they're implying here, I feel like this is a pretty racy scene for
No,
Who's
it
the
is.
Boss.
It is. Raciest we've seen yet, probably.
Yeah, and then he doesn't even say like, oh, it's my keys, or
right,
like
nothing. There's a lifesavers.
Right. It's my wallet or anything. He just looks embarrassed and she looks embarrassed. So
yeah, like something went down.
Yeah, I think the Rangers game is getting Tony a little excited, and Angela.
Hopefully that's what it is.
and Angela noticed. Yeah, there's a scene in the X-Files that's a fan favorite where Scully's doing an autopsy and they're in this like crammed little closet room and Mulder's like has to get right behind her and she gives him a look and he says, it's my pen light.
Oh.
But like, yeah, they didn't even go with the joke here. They just kind of left it open-ended, which makes it even racier. So,
right. Like could be something really going on.
Yeah, congrats. Who's the boss? One other thing I learned today in that special I watched is that originally Who's the Boss was not supposed to be in the family time slot. They wanted it at 9 p.m. because they wanted to be able to do more adult humor. And then they ended up going to 8:30. And so they had to kind of
like
shift it to more of a family show. I mean, how racy could it have been at 9? Although Moonlighting was at 9, right?
Yeah,
I think that one was pretty racy.
That was pretty racy.
Although, why waste the raciness when you're not going to get your leads together for 107 years?
Right.
So, okay. So anyway, yes, Tony's excited. Angela's embarrassed. So now Lyle and Christy just completely ignore them.
Yeah.
And he's like, thank you for coming down here. And she's like, oh, it's my pleasure. And so she says, can we get married now? And Lyle's like, I don't know. I've been thinking, I've been alone so long that like maybe it's better that the wedding is off because I'm insensitive and I'm a sports junkie and you could do much better than me. And Christy says, believe me, I can't. Right. But Lyle's like, I've been alone so long that maybe I should just stay that way. And Tony's like, no, alone is bad. Together is good. And then he's like, Angela, seriously, can you give me a little room here? Okay, so another thing that I found was interesting that's different in this script is that he's saying alone is bad, together is good.
Right.
And then Angela says what Tony's trying to say is that living under the same roof with someone makes life better. And then she's like, well, not always. Sometimes you have a fight. Like, she's basically describing them.
Right.
But then you wake up the next morning and they're there. Unless they left early, but they probably left a note on the refrigerator. But even if they didn't, and Tony's like, will you bottom line this?
Yeah.
And she says, okay, alone is bad, together is good. But in the script, it says single is bad, together is good. But then they were probably thinking, well, it doesn't make sense for them to be saying that since they technically are single. But they're not alone. Like, even though they're not together, they still have this companionship where they aren't alone and they have someone to share their life with.
Right.
They get to fight and have all of that, just none of the sex. So basically they are like a married couple.
They really are. Pretty much.
So then Christy's like, are you just saying that? And Angela's like, no, I mean it. And Tony says we both mean it. And now they're kind of looking at each other again, like they do mean it and they mean it to each other.
Right.
And so Christy's like, maybe we should leave them alone.
Yeah, I know. It's like the moment became about Tony and Angela.
Right,
and
right.
Now they're like, oh, they need to be alone.
Now Angela finally got her romance out of getting someone else married. So Lyle and Christy's like, unless you want to stay here and watch the game. But Lyle's like, no, let's go read that book.
Yeah. You know what Lyle's got on his mind.
He can't wait to get that very high-collared, tightly buttoned shirt off of her.
Sure.
So they get up and they leave, and Gary's playing the wedding march as they're walking out of the game. And Tony's yelling and laughing over.
Of course he is.
Kevin made us maybe rewind this like 4 times.
I know. And I almost wanted to get the sound drop of it. Because it sounds so bizarre.
I know, it's like...
Hey. But it's like so loud and they're going up the stairs.
Right. It's total like voiced over. It just sounds really silly.
Yeah, I know. It's so bad the way they did it.
So once they're gone, Tony and Angela are still sitting in the same seat together. And she says, nice couple. And he says, yeah. And then he says, we make great matchmakers, don't we? And she's like, yeah. And then she's like, isn't it so romantic? And they're kind of looking at each other. And then she realizes that there are now empty seats next to him. And she's still sitting in his lap. So she's like, if you don't mind, I'm just going to go sit over there. And he's like, no, I don't mind. And then when she gets off his lap, I'm super annoyed if the look on his face is another Angela fat joke because...
Oh, because he like kind of rolls his eyes.
Yeah, because he's like, I don't mind.
I didn't think about
and
that, but now that you're saying it.
So it's either an Angela fat joke or it's the continuation of Tony being embarrassed and wanting her off of his lap. So who knows?
Yeah.
I tend to think it's a fat joke just because that's how it goes.
Right.
But it's just, I don't know. She's like the smallest thing ever.
I know.
And even if she wasn't, it's still not a nice joke. Okay. So Angela's like, I've never been to a hockey game before. So now these two are basically going to just sit here for the rest of the game and watch. And she asks, what does the circle indicate on the ice? And he says, oh, that indicates blood. And then a bunch of guys, oh, you're right. I can totally see them laughing. A bunch of guys just start jumping around all over the place in front of them. Fighting.
Right. And then it's like so fake looking.
It is. Okay, so what?
Nothing. I was trying to like rewind back to it, but
oh, I know.
Don't mind me.
Don't with that Roku remote. You'll be all over the place.
Yeah, the guy's like laughing. The fight doesn't even look like a real fight. I mean,
Just
whatever.
bad.
What do I want? Who's the boss?
Okay, so now in the tag, Angela and Mona come in just arguing with each other over what? Who knows? Nothing. And what is Angela saying? Like, I wonder if they even just ad-lib this. Angela's saying, why do you... discussing things like that. And then Mona's like, you make a big deal out of nothing. So what do you think Mona was talking about?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I
Make a
think
big
they're
deal
on the
out of nothing.
subway and Mona was talking loudly about something embarrassing and now Angela's all angry.
All right, Mona doesn't care.
Right. And Tony is like arranging a bouquet of flowers on the table behind the couch when they walk in. And Angela notices that. And she's like, oh, what lovely flowers. Are they for the house? And Tony's like, oh, yes, I know how much the house loves flowers. So she thinks that's very sweet. And then Tony's like, and by the way, I want to thank you for being so considerate and calling for being late, but it's really not necessary when you're only going to be 4 minutes late.
Yeah,
she's
see,
like,
now
well,
she's trying to take responsibility.
Right. She's like, 4 minutes may mean a lot to a roast.
That's right.
And then Mona's like, what is this, June and Ward Cleaver?
Leave it to Beaver reference.
Yeah, I know. Does anyone get that anymore?
I don't know.
No one
Older
younger
people
than
do.
us.
Yeah.
Old people, yeah, us.
Us.
And so they explain, we're just trying to be more considerate and sensitive to each other's feelings and needs. Again,
Why start now?
an old married couple
Right.
without any of the fun benefits.
That's right.
Now, Angela's shoulder pads are out of control.
Oh my God. She looks like a
here.
football player. Really does.
And it almost looks like one of them got a little out of place.
Yeah, and they tried to they had to change clothes real quick in
That's
between
true.
takes. So
We
she
did.
probably
Yep.
threw that on and didn't even look at it.
Yeah.
Because they were her and Catherine Hellman were racing.
Yes. That is, they do say that. And I had heard that one before in the True Hollywood story that they would have races to see who could get ready fastest while Tony entertained the audience.
Right.
Which I think is funny. Like he was probably done getting dressed in 37 seconds.
Right. And he can go out there and make jokes and do whatever while they're
All he had to
running.
do was pull over this little powder blue Dexter Kill Henley shirt, which I actually think is nice. His hair's exactly the same in every scene.
Yeah.
So he walks up behind them and he has a plate of chocolate chip cookies with walnuts. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed the important part, which is that Angela says they're just trying to be more sensitive to each other's needs and feelings and that some other people could use that as well, meaning Mona. And then Tony comes over with the plate of chocolate chip walnut cookies, and she's like, "Oh, did you make these for Angela? Thank you." And she takes the
And
plate
she just
and walks
steals them.
away. I
Yeah.
know. The whole plate. No, okay, we'll just say Mona's going to go for the joke there because she's not really going to eat that whole plate of cookies.
No. There's no way.
And that is the episode.
Yep.
I'll go first with rating
Okay.
because I'm supposed to.
Okay.
I do know that this time. For the first time ever. I give it a 7. I like
Okay.
this episode.
Yeah.
It's cute. It's ridiculous that this is such a sitcom thing though, where you meet these two people and then you never see them again. We've never seen them before, never
Never
see
see
them
him
again.
again. You
No.
never see cousin
Cousin Christy
Christy.
or Buddy Lyle.
Ever again.
But overall, I thought it was cute. It was cute Angela and Tony moments to show kind of how much they've become an old married couple.
Right.
And I feel like the kids had a little more to do in this one. Samantha more than Jonathan. And then the cuteness at the hockey game and the ridiculousness of that lap thing. So, yeah, 7.
Yeah, I agree. I'll agree with that 7. No, you're right. It's like they use these two people to kind of advance their story. It kind of not advance, but give you more Tony and
Right.
and Angela moments. And then those people are gone. So,
Yes, yeah. I'm going to
Classic.
say they did get married. They had 2 kids.
they moved to Vermont,
Oh, that's good. Okay.
far
Yep.
away, so you never see him again.
Right.
And I don't know.
Maybe if Tony and Angela would have ever gotten married, she could have come to their wedding.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Maybe she ends up in the reboot.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
She's too busy, though,
Lyle
on her own, executive producing her own TV show to
They
be
end
on
up in the reboot.
the Who's the Boss reboot.
I doubt that.
Who's the boss around here? Me? Or my mother? Or maybe it's you?
I went with Angela on this
Okay.
one. I couldn't really. The only reason is she claims she knew that they were destined to be each other. We're not
That's
sure.
true.
I don't know if we can confirm nor deny that. But she tried to keep the wedding moving along. She talked her into standing up for herself and
Right.
go down there and tell them, whatever, we're getting married. And so I just would have to go with Angela that's the closest thing to a boss, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I went with Tony and Angela as a tie.
Oh, okay. That's good too.
Just because
that was my two that I was trying to decide between.
Yeah. And then I kind of thought Christy, because she sort of decided to take things in her own hands.
True, yeah. She was kind of the boss.
But they did work to help her get back to Lyle. So I'm going to go with Tony and Angela because alone is bad. Together is good.
Alone is bad. Together is good.
And like they set him up together.
Yeah.
Then she, she got Christy up. She lit a fire under Christy, but then they worked together to get him back together. So
because they realized their true love for each other.
Which ones?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. So
Lyle.
Oh, right. Yes. Lyle and Christy. Yes. They fell in love in one night.
Wow. And I was saying, when they're at the game, they realize that they're...
Right. Okay, so the next episode we're going to cover is called A Trip to the Principal. We actually watched this one kind of recently.
Oh, we have?
Yeah, it's when Jonathan skips a grade and goes to middle school.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I remember this.
Things kind of go haywire from there. So, hang on. Wait a minute. No, hang on.
What?
You can reach us at. I forgot that part. Who's the Boss Podcast on Instagram, or Who's the Boss Pod 1 on Twitter, the Who's the Boss Podcast page on Facebook, or go to anchor.fm/WTB podcast, and there you can leave us a voice message. And again, I've been getting some great messages.
Yeah, we were on a roll there for a while with the voicemails.
Oh, yes,
Good
we
ones.
were. We had like 3 in a row. That was fantastic. And then I also have been getting great messages on Instagram and like some old photos of people with the cast and their memorabilia.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
Any of that stuff, please feel free. And also, if you feel so inclined, there is a Facebook group called the Who's the Boss resource page. And it is the same people who used to run the website, the Who's the Boss resource, which I have found some interesting facts and tidbits and information on. So that website is now defunct, but they have a Facebook group. And people post a lot of stuff in there, and it's pretty active. So if you want to share any pictures that you have or just chat with other nerds like me, then
That's
come
pretty
on
cool,
over. Yeah, okay, so I already said what we're going to do next time. Okay, so now we're just going to say goodbye.
We are.
Okay, good night,
All right,
everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give a big thumbs up and tell all your friends. And maybe you can tell your grandma, your mother, and your sister or brother. Maybe you have no siblings. Tell your dog and cats. Bye.